The library had become my sanctuary, a quiet refuge from the chaos that consumed my home. My mother's latest boyfriend, a man named Greg, was a walking storm of negativity. He was always quick to criticize, his words sharp and cutting, aimed at both me and my mother. He wasn't physically abusive, but his verbal assaults left scars all the same. I often wished my mother would find the strength to leave him, but she seemed trapped in the cycle of needing someone, anyone, to fill the void in her life. So I escaped to the library, where the silence was a balm to my frayed nerves. The library in our small, unnamed town was nothing special. It was old, with creaky wooden floors and shelves that seemed to groan under the weight of too many books. But it had one thing that made it invaluable to me: free, unsecured internet. The town's lack of funds meant the library's Wi-Fi was laughably easy to bypass. With a VPN, I could explore corners of the web that most people never even knew existed. I wasn't doing anything illegal, at least not intentionally, but I was curious, and curiosity, as they say, can be dangerous. That afternoon, I was deep in the dark web, scrolling through forums and hidden sites. I wasn't looking for anything in particular, just letting my curiosity guide me. That's when I stumbled across a link that caught my eye. It was a news site, but not like any I'd seen before. The headline was mundane enough, something about a local murder, but the date beneath it was 3 days in the future. I frowned, assuming it was a glitch or a mistake, but something about it nagged at me. Against my better judgment, I clicked the link. The site that loaded was stark and minimalistic, almost clinical in its design. The articles were written in a dry, matter-of-fact tone, but the content was anything but ordinary. The story I'd clicked on detailed the brutal murder of a woman in her apartment. According to the article, her body had been torn apart, as if by a wild animal. The police were baffled, the article claimed, and the town was on edge. But what really sent a chill down my spine was the date, 3 days from now. I leaned back in my chair, my heart pounding. It had to be a hoax, right? Some sick joke or an elaborate prank. But why? And how had they gotten the details so specific? I glanced around the library, half expecting someone to jump out and yell, "Gotcha!" But the room was empty, save for the librarian at the front desk, who was engrossed in a romance novel. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was nothing. But the image of the article lingered in my mind, like a splinter I couldn't quite remove. I spent the rest of the afternoon trying to distract myself with homework, but my thoughts kept drifting back to that site. By the time the library closed, I was no closer to understanding what I'd seen. The next few days passed in a blur. I tried to put the article out of my mind, but it was like a shadow, always lurking at the edges of my thoughts. Then on Sunday morning, my phone buzzed, jolting me awake. It was my best friend, Zoe. "You're not going to believe this," she said, her voice trembling. "Remember that story you told me about? The one with the murder?" I sat up, my heart racing. "Yeah, why?" "It happened. Last night, exactly like you said. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me." "What? Are you sure?" "Positive. It's all over the news. A woman was killed in her apartment, and the police are saying it looks like an animal attack. But you already knew that, didn't you?" I didn't know what to say. My mind was spinning, trying to make sense of it. How could I have known? It wasn't possible. And yet, "Zoe, I need to see that site again, or I need to know if there's more." She hesitated. "Are you sure that's a good idea? I mean, if it's real, what does that even mean?" "I don't know, but I have to find out." We met at the library the next morning, before school. Zoe sat beside me as I logged into the dark web and navigated back to the site. My hands were shaking as I typed in the URL, and when the page loaded, I felt a cold knot of dread form in my stomach. The site was still there, unchanged. The article about the woman's murder was now dated correctly, but there was a new headline at the top of the page. This one was dated for the coming Wednesday. I clicked on it, my heart pounding in my chest. The article detailed another murder, this time an elderly man living alone on the outskirts of town. According to the article, he would be found torn apart just like the woman. The police would have no leads, and the town would be thrown into a panic, fearing a serial killer was on the loose. Zoe gasped as she read over my shoulder. "This is insane. How is this even possible?" "I don't know," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "But we have to do something. We can't just let this happen." What can we do? If we go to the police, they'll think we're crazy, or worse, they'll think we're involved. She was right, but I couldn't just sit back and do nothing. I thought for a moment, then an idea struck me. What if we tell your dad? Zoe's father was a detective with the local police force. If anyone would believe us, it would be him. She hesitated, then nodded. Okay, but let's be careful about how we word it. We called him from the library, using Zoe's phone. When he answered, she explained that we had something important to show him. He sounded skeptical, but agreed to come by. When he arrived, we showed him the site. He frowned as he read the article, his expression growing darker with each word. "This is some kind of joke, right?" he asked, looking at us. "I wish it was," I said. "But the last article, it came true, exactly like it said." He studied me for a moment, then nodded. "All right, I'll look into it, but you two stay out of this, understand? This is police business now." We agreed, though I couldn't shake the feeling that we were already in too deep. Over the next few days, Zoe's father worked tirelessly to prevent the predicted murder. He staked out the old man's house, waiting for the killer to show. And when the night came, he was ready. The killer arrived just as the article had said, breaking in through a window. Zoe's father confronted him, and after a tense standoff, the man was arrested. He was just a local troublemaker, someone the police had dealt with before. But as they led him away, he laughed, a chilling sound that sent shivers down my spine. "You think this is over?" he sneered. "It's just getting started." I tried to push his words out of my mind, telling myself it was just the ramblings of a madman. But that night, as I sat in the library, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. My laptop chimed and I looked at the screen. A new message had appeared, typed in bold black letters. "Do you really think it would be that easy to catch me? You should have just sat back and watched like all the others. But you decided to do more than watch. Now we'll see how far you're willing to go." The screen flickered, and the article began to change. The words shifted and rearranged themselves, forming a new headline. My blood ran cold as I read it. Next victim, Zoe. I grabbed my phone, my hands trembling as I dialed her number. It rang once, twice, then went to voicemail. I tried again, but there was no answer. Panic surged through me as I realized the truth. The killer wasn't done. And this time, he was coming for someone I cared about. I didn't know what to do. The library was closing, and I had nowhere else to go. But I couldn't just sit there and do nothing. I had to warn Zoe. I had to protect her. As I packed up my laptop and headed for the door, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The shadows in the library seemed darker, more menacing, as if they were alive and waiting to pounce. I quickened my pace, my heart pounding in my chest. The night was cold and silent as I stepped outside. The streets were empty, the town eerily quiet. I pulled out my phone and tried Zoe's number again, but there was still no answer. I started walking, my footsteps echoing in the stillness. I didn't know what I would find when I reached her house, but I knew one thing for certain. The dark web had shown me a glimpse of the future, and it was far more terrifying than I could have ever imagined. And now it was up to me to change it before it was too late. It all started innocently enough. I was sitting in my dorm room, scrolling through my laptop, when my roommate Jenna mentioned something offhand about the dark web. She said it was a place where people could find anything. No rules, no boundaries. At the time, I was stressed out from classes and looking for a way to blow off steam. I didn't think much of it, but curiosity got the better of me. That night, I decided to take a look. The dark web was nothing like I expected. It was clunky, slow, and eerily quiet. At first, I just browsed through random forums. Some were harmless, filled with conspiracy theories and oddball discussions. But then I stumbled across a thread that caught my attention. The title was simple: "Need help? I can make your problems disappear." The post was vague, but the comments were chilling. People were talking about revenge, blackmail, and worse. One comment stood out: "If you're serious, click here. No games." I hesitated, but something about the anonymity of it all made me feel invincible. I clicked the link. The screen went black, and for a moment, I thought I'd broken my laptop. Then, a single blinking cursor appeared in the corner of the screen. I clicked it, and a new page loaded. a private forum filled with posts that made my stomach turn. People were offering services I couldn't even comprehend. One user claimed to be a problem solver for hire. Another offered to erase someone's existence for the right price. I should have closed the tab right then, but I didn't. Instead, I kept scrolling. Over the next few weeks, I found myself drawn back to the forum. It became a strange kind of escape. I started replying to posts, mostly with sarcastic comments or jokes. It felt like a game, like none of it was real. But then I noticed something odd. Every time I logged in, I felt like someone was watching me. My laptop would glitch, or I'd hear faint static through my headphones. I brushed it off as paranoia, but deep down, I knew something wasn't right. One night, I came across a post from a user named Shadowwalker. The title read, "I see you." The post was addressed to me, not by name, but by my username. It said, "You've been watching. Now I'm watching you. Let's play." My heart raced as I read the words. I told myself it was a prank, but then my screen flickered and a new window opened. It was a live video feed of my room. I could see myself sitting at my desk, staring at the screen. The camera angle was from somewhere behind me. I spun around, but there was no one there. The room was empty. I slammed my laptop shut and unplugged it, my hands trembling. For days, I avoided the dark web altogether. But the fear didn't go away. I started noticing little things, a shadow moving outside my window, a faint tapping sound on the glass at night. I told myself it was my imagination, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Then, one evening, I got a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of me walking to class that morning. The message read, "You can't hide." I blocked the number, but the texts kept coming. Photos of me at the library, at the coffee shop, even in my dorm. I didn't know what to do. I thought about going to the police, but what would I say? That I'd been messing around on the dark web and now someone was stalking me? It sounded ridiculous. The final straw came a week later. I was walking home from the library late at night when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around, but the street was empty. I picked up my pace, but the footsteps got louder, closer. I started to run, but no matter how fast I went, the footsteps kept up. When I finally reached my dorm, I locked the door behind me and collapsed on the floor, shaking. That's when I noticed the envelope slipped under my door. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a message scrawled in red ink. "You shouldn't have clicked." I packed a bag that night and left. I didn't tell anyone where I was going, not even Jenna. I stayed with a friend in another town for a while, but the texts kept coming. The photos stopped, but the messages got darker. "I'll find you. You can't run forever." I changed my number, deleted my social media, and even got a new laptop. But I still feel like I'm being watched. Every time I hear a noise at night, I freeze. Every time I see a shadow, my heart stops. I don't know who they are or what they want. All I know is that I shouldn't have clicked that link. I shouldn't have gone down that rabbit hole. But it's too late now. They're out there, and they're not going to stop. When this happened, I was a naive 20-year-old, hopelessly addicted to online games. My laptop had recently given out, so I did what any irresponsible younger sibling would do. I borrowed my older brother's laptop without asking. It wasn't the first time I'd done something like that, and I figured he'd never notice. After all, he was always buried in his computer science textbooks or tinkering with some tech project. One evening, bored out of my mind, I decided to sneak into his room and grab his laptop again. I was desperate for something to distract me, something new and exciting. I typed into the search bar, "cool games, not boring or shooting games." The results were mostly the same old sites I'd visited before, but then something caught my eye. A pop-up appeared in the top right corner of the screen, stark and uninvited. It read, "Death Games." The pop-up was different from the usual flashy, obnoxious ads. It was simple, almost minimalist, with a black background and white text that seemed to pulse faintly, as if it were alive. For some reason, it felt personal, like it was waiting for me. My curiosity got the better of me, and I clicked on it. The screen went black for a moment, and then words began to appear, one letter at a time, as if someone were typing them in real time. "Hello, do you want to watch someone die?" Click the submit button to continue. The text was written in a deep, blood-red font that dripped slowly down the screen, leaving faint trails that faded into nothingness. I chuckled nervously, trying to convince myself it was just some poorly made shock site, but something about it felt off, like the air in the room had grown heavier. The screen changed again. The words now read, "Oh, what's wrong? Scared? Don't be chicken. It's just a game. Don't be shy. Click the button now." The tone was mocking, almost taunting. My heart was pounding, but I told myself it was just a stupid prank. I clicked the button. What appeared next was a crude, unsettling animation. 3 characters were on the screen, drawn in a style that was both childish and grotesque. They looked like distorted versions of Peppa Pig characters, but humanoid and unnervingly detailed. 2 of them were men, dressed like cartoonish bank robbers with bandit masks and striped shirts. The third was a woman, sitting in a chair, her face twisted in exaggerated terror. She was shaking violently, her whimpers echoing through the speakers. One of the men turned to face the screen. No, not the screen. He was looking at me. His grin widened, revealing jagged, yellow teeth. In a voice that sounded like it had been run through a cheap voice modulator, he asked, "Do you want to see her die?" Below him, 2 buttons appeared, yes and no. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the mouse. The man's grin never wavered. "Look," he said, his voice dripping with impatience. "You clicked the link. I know you want to see what happens next. Just do it. It's just a game." Against my better judgment, I clicked yes. The screen shifted and the other man stepped forward, now wearing a blood-stained butcher's apron. He stood next to an operating table, tools laid out neatly beside him. The animation was still crude, but the sound effects were horrifyingly realistic. The woman's screams were raw and guttural, like they were ripped from a real person's throat. The man picked up a hacksaw and the sound of metal scraping against bone filled the room. I watched in stunned silence as he dismembered her, limb by limb. The sound of the saw cutting through flesh, the wet thud of limbs hitting the floor, the woman's agonized moans. It was all too vivid. My stomach churned, but I couldn't look away. When it was over, the screen went black for a moment, then lit up with the words, "Did you like it? I knew you were curious. Want to see something even better?" I clicked yes again, my hands trembling. The next animation was even worse. The 2 men were now in scuba gear, standing at the edge of a murky pond. A man in a business suit stood between them, his hands bound behind his back. One of the divers held up a sign that read, "Do you want to watch him die?" I clicked yes, my curiosity now mingled with a sick sense of dread. The diver grabbed the man by the ankles and dragged him into the water. The victim's screams were deafening, his pleas for mercy echoing in my ears. The sound of splashing water, the gurgling as he was pulled under, the sudden silence. It was all too real. When he resurfaced, his arms were gone, torn from his body as if by some unseen force. Then, a massive alligator emerged from the depths, its jaws clamping down on him before dragging him under for good. I was sweating now, my heart racing. This wasn't fun anymore. I wanted to close the laptop to shut it all out, but the screen changed again. This time, the 2 men were no longer cartoons. They were real, standing in a dimly lit room with white masks covering their faces. Behind them was the dismembered body of the woman from the first animation, her limbs arranged in a grotesque display. One of the men held a hanger with the torn, blood-soaked suit of the businessman. The voice returned, colder and more menacing than before. "Wasn't it fun to see these 2? You wanted to see more, and we did it for you. Only they had to experience it, but so can you. Please don't leave the site, you'd be taking all the fun away from us." My blood ran cold. This wasn't a game. Those animations had been a cover, a way to disguise real murders. I was staring at the aftermath of something unspeakable. 3 options appeared on the screen. Yes, I want to experiment. No, I don't want to experiment, and I want to meet you. I frantically clicked no, but nothing happened. The voice returned, sharper this time. "What's wrong with you? Don't you want to have fun? You saw us do what we did, and you chose no. You better choose right this time." I slammed the laptop shut, my hands shaking so badly I could barely breathe. I felt like I was going to vomit. When I finally gathered the courage to open it again, the site was gone. It had vanished from the browser history, as if it had never existed. My brother came home shortly after and found me pale and trembling. I told him everything, my voice cracking with fear. His face went pale and he immediately took the laptop from me. He muttered something about the dark web and began typing furiously, his fingers flying across the keyboard. After a few minutes, he shut the laptop down and turned to me, his expression grim. "You stumbled onto something you shouldn't have," he said. "These people, they're dangerous. You can't tell anyone about this. Not the police, not your friends. No one." I begged him to explain, but he refused. All he said was that he'd taken care of it. To this day, I don't know what he did or who he contacted, but I've never forgotten the sound of those screams or the way those men looked me through the screen, as if they knew exactly who I was. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear the voice in my head, whispering, "Don't be chicken, it's just a game." And I wonder if they're still out there, waiting for me to come back. I will never forget the night we stumbled upon the shadow net and the eerie, twisted realms it housed. My friends, Alex, Mia, and I, during our high school years in the small town of Eldridge, were obsessed with digital folklore. We'd spend endless nights combing through forums like Cryptic Web and Anon Zone, seeking out the bizarre and the macabre, not for any particular reason, but for the thrill of the unexpected. Growing up in the late 2010s, we were part of the first wave to have unrestricted, high-speed internet at home, which fueled our curiosity to explore the unknown. Back then, listening to a song or a podcast would send us racing to the internet to dig deeper. Most of us stuck to downloading music and videos from sites like Nebula and Echo Wave, which were notorious for being virus-ridden. But some discovered you could find almost anything on Cyberloot, a digital game of chance, where you might download a song by the Legends and instead find yourself watching footage of a ritual gone horribly wrong. The concept of the shadow net was mesmerizing to us. Though this hidden layer of the internet had existed for ages, it was around 2017 when the term really caught on. There were whispers of it at Eldridge High, tales of secret markets, forbidden knowledge, and encounters with digital entities that could chill you to the bone. Curiosity piqued. We decided to venture into this digital abyss. None of us dared use our own devices, fearing the stories of hackers and malevolent entities. We pooled our savings for a second-hand laptop, specifically for this expedition into the unknown. Stories of digital phantoms and cyber stalkers made us cautious, yet the allure was too potent to resist. After days of preparation, I decided to go solo on my home computer. Accessing the shadow net wasn't illegal, but what you did there could land you in hot water. I installed the necessary software, navigated through layers of security, and found myself in a place where conventional URLs didn't exist. You needed to know the dark pathways to find what you were looking for. Turning to the anonymous users on AnonZone for guidance, they unanimously advised against it. Yet, after some negotiation, they shared a document filled with cryptic addresses. The list was dizzying, thousands of entries hinting at horrors and wonders. My first attempts were fruitless, landing on dead sites, each click adding to my frustration. But I couldn't give up. This was the stuff of legends we'd talked about for ages. Then, I hit upon a site that wasn't dead. It was an online bazaar, but not for goods you'd find in any legitimate store. One site specialized in selling human hair, supposedly from victims of unsolved crimes, each strand tagged with a tale of terror. I shared my findings with Alex and Mia, who were both excited and terrified. They came over after school, making sure my parents were out, and we explored further. We found a site where you could buy memories, detailed accounts of someone's life, some ending in tragedy or horror, sold by individuals who claimed they could extract these from dreams or visions. One day, while we were deep into our exploration, a small red dot appeared in the corner of my screen, resembling a staring eye. It seemed benign at first, possibly just a glitch, but it persisted even after closing everything down. It was as if someone or something was watching us. Weeks passed, and we ventured deeper, finding a forum where users boasted of being shadow artists, individuals who could manipulate digital reality. They claimed to alter online memories, or even erase someone's digital footprint for a price. The eeriness escalated when that red dot disappeared. replaced by a message across the screen in chilling crimson letters. Hello, explorers. I've watched your journey through our shadows. You're not interested in our wares, are you? Just kids playing with fire. Be warned, not all here are as forgiving as I. Your digital footprints are like neon signs in the dark. I've cleaned one tracker off your device, but there might be more. Disconnect now, unless you want to join the shadows permanently. The message was both a warning and a threat. We laughed it off at first until the sender detailed our names, our school, our family's names, and our exact home address. The room fell silent, the air thick with the realization of how exposed we were. With a shared look of terror, we shut everything down, permanently disconnected our internet, and that was the last time I ever dared to look into the shadow net. The memory of that red eye haunts me, a stark reminder of the perils lurking just beneath the surface of our everyday digital world.